It all started with the promise of a new living arrangement and the excitement of sharing a space with a stranger in the city. My friend Peter suggested this room. I came here to prepare for my exams. I asked him to find me a good room for as little money as possible. Money is always a scarce resource for a middle-class student. Karl Marx was right when he said, "Money plays the largest part in determining the course of history." Because this economical decision actually changed my life. When I first laid eyes on my roommate, I was struck by her beauty, her smile like sunshine, her laughter like music to my ears. Her name was Juliet. I thought I had hit the jackpot and that the fate had smiled upon me with the gift of such a wonderful companion. I never thought my roommate would be such a beautiful girl. But why is the rent so low? If a girl like her was the roommate, then young men would line up in front of the apartment to have a chance to be her roommate. Then why? I got no answer. I thought I would ask Peter about this later. At first, everything was good. I was happy about my new roommate, but later, I found out that something was terribly wrong. The first sign that something was amiss came from her room, a strange smell, musty and foul, that seemed to seep out from beneath the door like a noxious fog. I tried to ignore it at first, chalking it up to the usual odors of a shared living space. But as time went on, the stench only grew stronger, a constant reminder that she had a serious lack of hygiene. At first, I ignored it because it was only in her room, but later, she began to do the same to the shared spaces. She used to order food from online delivery and never cleaned up after eating. The wrappers and the leftover food were left on the dining table. I sincerely wanted a roommate who could share the expenses with me, and I was even ready to cook for her also. But she was never a roommate who would listen to me. Occasionally she talks in a friendly manner, but then the next moment she behaves as if I don't exist in that apartment. One day, when I opened the fridge, I saw her private clothes in it, and when I asked her about it, she mumbled something incomprehensible. I also started to ignore her, but as the days turned into weeks, her behavior grew increasingly disturbing, a chilling harbinger of the horrors to come. She brought some of her friends home. They had strange symbols worn around their necks. From the looks of it, they were members of some cult practices. I was in a state of confusion. Am I in a city or in some deep jungle? Will these people sacrifice me as part of some ritual? I watched as they stumbled through the apartment in a trance-like state. They would mutter something. I had no clue what it was, but they soon left after their rituals or whatever, and I was relieved. But it was her nocturnal wanderings that truly unnerved me. The soft sound of her footsteps padding across the floor in the dead of night, the whispered conversations that echoed through the walls like ghostly whispers. I would lie awake in bed, paralyzed with fear, as she moved through the apartment with the stealth of a predator on the hunt, her intentions shrouded in mystery. One day I overheard her angry phone call that truly unnerved me, her voice rising to a fever pitch as she ranted and raved about secrets and lies, her words laced with a venomous fury that left me cowering in fear. She was like a mentally challenged patient. She said she wanted to kill that person on the phone. I tried to intervene, to reason with her, and to convince her to seek help, but she only grew more agitated, her rage boiling over into a frenzy of violence and despair. I wanted to ask the reason for her anger, but then decided not to. Desperate for a solution, I made the decision to take her to see a psychiatrist, hoping that professional help would offer some respite from the madness that had taken hold of our lives. But my efforts were in vain. As she stubbornly refused to cooperate, her mind's closed off to reason and logic. She then began to destroy every window and glass objects that she saw in our apartment. Only now I knew the reason why I got to live with a beauty, and also the reason for the low rent. And so, with a heavy heart and a mind filled with dread, I made the decision to escape, to flee from the nightmare that had consumed our once peaceful home, and seek refuge in the safety of the outside world. It was a decision born of desperation, a last-ditch effort to preserve my sanity in the face of unspeakable horrors. I never wanted to leave that beautiful, angel-like woman, but I had no other choice left. It all began innocently enough, with the promise of a fresh start in a new city and a cozy apartment to call home. It was also easy to commute to my workplace since the room was near the city, but the only problem was the high rent. But soon it was solved as I got a new roommate, Thomas, to share the rent. I was so happy at first, but later I found his behavior eccentric. Strange rituals conducted in the dead of night, whispers of incantations, and then sitting in front of a Ouija board with a candle. But as the days turned into weeks, his actions grew increasingly bizarre, a dark shadow creeping over our once peaceful abode. The nights were the worst as he would shout something unclear in his sleep. I asked him one night, "Thomas, what happened? Why are you shouting?" He just replied, "Bad dreams." He said nothing more. I would lie awake in bed, paralyzed with fear, as he wandered the apartment in a state of frenzied delirium, his words twisted and incomprehensible. But it was his obsession with the Ouija board that truly sent shivers down my spine. A portal to realms unknown, a gateway to the darkest corners of the human psyche. Initially as an atheist, I didn't believe in this, but I watched in horror as he communed with forces beyond my understanding, his eyes glazed over with a madness that seemed to consume him from within. I still don't know whether he could actually communicate with an otherworldly force, but it was very frightening. And then there were the sleepwalking episodes that left me trembling with fear as I witnessed my roommate stumbling through the apartment in a trance-like state, his hands reaching out to grasp at phantoms only he could see. I called him Thomas. I got no reply. I called again. "Don't you see I'm here having a conversation with someone? You wait," he replied. I knew I had to escape. I had to flee from the madness that had taken hold of our once peaceful home. But with each passing day, the darkness seemed to close in around me, suffocating me with its oppressive weight and leaving me gasping for air. The fear was relentless, like a constant companion that haunted my every waking moment and whispered of unspeakable horrors lurking just beyond the edge of sanity. I felt like a prisoner in my own home, trapped in a nightmare from which there was no escape. And so, with a heavy heart and a mind filled with dread, I made the decision to leave, to flee from the madness that threatened to consume me whole and seek refuge in the safety of the outside world. I communicated with the owner of the apartment the very next day that I will be moving to another apartment that day itself. I lost some of my security deposit, but this was the only way to move forward. But as I walked away from that cursed apartment, a chill ran down my spine, a feeling of unease that lingered long after I had left, a reminder of the horrors I had witnessed and the darkness that still lurked in the shadows, waiting to claim its next victim.